All right, well, welcome. We're going to get started. The subject of today's webinar is Logos Mobile Education, or Mobile Ed. This should be a really fun time that we have together. Mobile Ed is really an exciting product. There's nothing else like it in the world that I know of. I think it's going to be really exciting to see it in action. Our presenter today is Johnny Sisneros, and he travels around the country teaching people about mobile ed. He's one of the creative forces behind the creation of mobile ed, and he does this a lot. He spends a lot of time explaining to people how to use Logos Mobile Education. So it should be a great time. A lot of I'm sure we'll learn a lot. If, as we're going along here, you have any questions that you'd like us to address, any questions about Logos or mobile ed in particular, you can send them to webinars@logos.com, and we'll do our best to answer them on the air. If you'd like to, after this presentation is over, if you would like to review the presentation later, you could do that at logos.com/webinar archive. And you can watch the video at a later date so that you can rewind and rewatch sections that you'd like to see. Well, we're going to get started. Without any further ado, Johnny.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me for this webinar on Logos Mobile Education. I'm going to flip over here just to share my screen with all of you. What we're looking at right now is, of course, Logos Bible software. This is version 5 on the Mac platform. Of course, the PC version looks very similar, just a different hue in terms of the layout. What you're looking at here are two resources that comprise the Mobile Ed courseware platform. Of course, it looks very familiar because we're using Logos Bible software as the platform for these resources, these courseware resources that we've developed. And so this looks very familiar, but this new initiative, we believe, is very exciting and has a lot of relevance for all of you who are interested in continuing your education. Logos Mobile Education is our initiative to provide resources for personal enrichment and professional development. These resources, we've tried to emphasize, are centered around what you get to keep. If you're already, and you are a Logos Bible software user, you're familiar with the fact that we have thousands of book resources available. Now you can not only add books to your library, you can add professors to your library. Logos Mobile Education provides for you the world-class lectures from top-tier scholars from around the world, a digital library, which you can use to do further research. It also adds in screencast tutorials, which allow you to perform the same type of research that the professors talk about and demonstrate over the course of their lectures. First, what I'd like to do is demonstrate a little bit of how this courseware works. What you're looking at here on the left is a course we've developed called OT 101, Introducing the Old Testament, Its Structure and Story. This is by Dr. Mark Furtado, who is professor over at Reformed Theological Seminary in Orlando, Florida. What we do as a part of Mobile Ed is we connect with world-class scholars. We fly them over to our studios in Bellingham, Washington at our headquarters. We film their presentation of their course content and material over the course of about a week, and then we develop that video material in a number of ways. And one of the ways in which we develop that is in terms of a text transcript that you see here included below what you're looking at, but also in terms of actual video lecture material. So what I want to do for you right now is, with that big picture overview of Mobile Ed, the video, the text resource, I want to play for you just an excerpt of one of these videos, actually segment 4 here, Indicators of Structure. I've chosen this video for a reason. What I'll do here is play for you just about a minute, give you an idea of what the production looks like that goes into our mobile ed courses, and talk a little bit about how that differs from a lot of other productions that are out there that schools are using that you may have seen available on YouTube or iTunes U, for example, or perhaps through your own alma mater, the Bible college or seminary that you went to. So with that said, I'll just go into full screen mode here so that you can see the entire video, and then play for you just, like I said, about a minute of this video here.
Biblical authors use various structures to communicate meaning. The question is, how do we discern where the boundaries of the various units are, and how do we discern whether there, for example, is a linear structure, a parallel structure, a concentric structure? One of the key things is to look for some objective markers. And one of the main objective markers that Hebrew authors use to indicate how things are structured is the repetition of vocabulary. Most of us, when we were learning in our earlier education how to write essays, for example, were told to vary our vocabulary, because if we don't vary our vocabulary, what we're writing will be boring. Well, Hebrew teachers taught their students the exact opposite. They said, repeat your vocabulary, because if you don't repeat your vocabulary, how will people ever understand the point that you're trying to make? And so looking for repetitive vocabulary is a key to discerning structure in Hebrew narrative and in Hebrew poetry.
And I'll just go ahead and pause it right there. That gives you enough of an idea of what our production looks like. Of course, there are places throughout a course where you might have a professor reference a particular passage from the Bible, a quotation from another author or ancient piece of literature. And so we'll display that in full screen on a slide where you can easily follow along with what the professor or the speaker is trying to draw your attention to. In terms of our production, I want to highlight for you just a couple of things here that really set us apart from other distance education initiatives. We know, and we've heard from a number of users and a number of people involved in distance education, that one of the challenges of taking courses online is that students tend to feel removed or at a distance from where the education is actually happening. You might have seen video online where there's a camera situated in the back of the classroom and you're looking at the professor lecture in front of the students. And of course, there's some interaction that's going on between the professor, between the students, but you, however, are in a sense a spectator. You're removed from where the education is actually happening, and this, in a sense, again, that type of production reinforces that a person is removed. We also know that in those types of contexts, professors often communicate a lot of information that's extraneous to the person studying at a distance. You might remember things like the add drop date for a course, or a professor might talk about the final exam and the handouts and the homework. All of those things would be irrelevant for the person studying at a distance, and this is even further emphasized by how many times students ask questions of their professor in class, in which you might hear something like, and the professor might say, oh, that's a great question. Let me just take a moment to answer that, or I'll get to that in just a few moments, or we'll cover that in the next lecture. And so the person who's studying, again, online or at a distance, isn't privy to the conversation that was asked, or the question that was asked, or the conversation that's had between the professor and the student. We've tried to eliminate all of this through our closed studio production. You can see that Dr. Furtado here, when he's speaking and delivering the content, it's very focused. At the beginning of his lecture, he doesn't talk about what the weather was like, or the types of sporting events that he was a part of the last week, or even the administrational or logistical details that need to be covered for a course in an on-campus context. He gets right into the material, saving you time and keeping your attention. The other thing that you'll notice here is we have this on-screen text that's appearing. If you've ever looked at the types of videos that appear online in which the professor is presenting their slides and it's in a live classroom setting, oftentimes the content on the slides is very difficult to read. The images might be grainy, the text or the font might be too small or unreadable. So again, what we wanted to do here in this closed studio environment is provide a very clean presentation that highlights just the content, and that's what you see here. What we've done is we have our professors present their entire course lecture material, and then our own video editors and instructional designers go back into the video once it's already captured, and then we draw out the most important, crucial points from the lecture material so that you can remember that and have it there for review and for reference. Another thing that I want to draw your attention to here about our production is the duration of the videos. Again, it's very common for institutions to release lecture videos of their professors, but oftentimes these lecture videos span about an hour and a half to 2 hours in length, and we know and we've heard from folks who try to be independent learners and collect these different types of resources is that it's a challenge to review that content, especially when working in a 40 to 50 hour work week when you might have a number of obligations, and it's hard to set aside an hour and a half to 2 hours to get into a lecture like that. So what we've done here is with all of our videos, and I'll just open up the table of contents view here, and you can actually see the list of videos that comprise this course. An even better view is to look at the overview, and you can see all the videos listed here and their duration. Just to give you an idea, I don't intend for you to read all of the titles that are included here, but OT 101, Introducing the Old Testament, this survey by Dr. Furtado, is comprised of about 70 plus lecture video clips. And again, I don't intend for you to see all of the titles here or read all of them, but just to give you an idea of the scope. You've seen the titles there, but you also see some numbers. Just scrolling back to the top here, we see some durations for the videos. This video on linear structure within the Hebrew Bible is 2.5 minutes roughly. This is almost 9, almost 6, and about 7.5 minutes, the video that we just watched. What we've done with every course that we've developed is we've coordinated and collaborated with the professor before they even get into studio to segment their content into smaller units so that when we finish this course and develop it, deploy it, you can interact with this course material in a way that fits your schedule. We've tried to avoid, to the best of our ability, any video clips that go over 10 minutes in length, and the professors have worked with us to distill their content into very focused segments so that, again, if you have an appointment that was canceled, maybe a 30-minute appointment or an hour-long appointment, you can come back to lecture material like this throughout the course of your day, perhaps before you get into the office, maybe even during lunch, maybe even after work, or after the kids go to bed. You can have some time set aside to get into these lecture clips that are very digestible, very accessible in this format. So like I said, the video clip that we looked at here, Indicators of Structure, only 7.5 minutes long. Of course, you can go right through the material just like you would any course, but what's especially helpful is that if you've gone through the course material for this Introducing the Old Testament course, and let's say 6 months later, you're developing some teaching material, maybe a sermon series in Genesis, or you have a small group study through that book, you can go immediately right here to the clip on the message of Genesis, as opposed to waiting through a lot of course material or watching an entire video that's an hour long just to get to that 5-minute section that's relevant to your preparation and relevant to what you want to know. So that's the video component of mobile ed. Again, a lot of people have video nowadays. A lot of people are using video to communicate biblical content, but we've tried to take this to the next level by having the production very minimal, very clean, focused on the content, focused on the professor's presentation, collaborating with the professor to distill their content to the most focused and important elements in their presentation, as well as making this very accessible and digestible for folks who are working possibly between 2 jobs and with a heavy workload. Moving into the next section here, what I want to highlight for you is this text transcript. Like I said, a lot of people have video nowadays, but one of the challenges with video is that it's very difficult to search. If you've ever watched a video that's even 10 minutes long or 20 minutes long, and there was, let's say, a reference that a professor or a speaker made to another author, to a key term, or to a reference, say to the Bible, let's say a reference to Acts 2:42, for example, and you want to find out where that reference was used and maybe find out other places in your library or other resources that maybe mention those same terms or references or authors. That would be difficult in every situation but for mobile ed. What we've done with all of our videos is we've taken that video material and transcribed all of it to derive a document like what you see here on the left. This document is a transcript, a verbatim transcript of the video lecture material for every single clip in every single course. So what we have here, of course, is something that we've taken to the next level as well. A transcript is usually just a running block of text without any real formatting or any special segmentation. But what we've done here is we've taken that transcript and we've enriched it with things like titles that you see here, segment 4, indicators of structure. We've included a thumbnail of the video so that you can launch the video directly from the transcript. And we've also included learning objectives so that you can quickly see what you're going to learn as a result of watching this video clip. The next thing that we've done here is we've included headings throughout the body of the transcript so that you can see what topics are going to be covered for this particular video clip. Now, the body of the transcript is what Dr. Furtado or any other mobile ed speaker actually says over the course of their video clip. So you can quickly reference, follow along. If you hear a term or a concept that you're not sure how it's pronounced or how it's written out, spelled even, you can reference that here with this transcript. Now, one of the things that was interesting about what Dr. Furtado said in his video is he referenced and mentioned the term Hebrew poetry. Some of you might already be familiar with English poetry, Shakespeare, and other works along that his time period. But one of the things about Hebrew poetry is that it has a lot of unique features that are different from English poetry. Well, if you heard that lecture clip that Dr. Furtado, in which Dr. Furtado mentioned this term, you would know that he didn't necessarily talk about those differences. He simply mentioned the term. We know that this is a challenge for a lot of students who are going and studying online or at a distance, in which they might watch lecture video, but then they might not have the tools to look up some of the terms or authors or references that are mentioned over the course of a lecture. We've tried to correct that and even add in resources here, and what I want to demonstrate to you is really an advancement in continuing and distance education. I can go over here to the text transcript, highlight the phrase that Dr. Furtado used, simply right-click, and then go over to Search Entire Library. And right here, within a matter of just a few seconds, I have links to every place in my library where Hebrew poetry was used. Now again, Dr. Furtado didn't describe Hebrew poetry in great detail. He didn't talk about other references or other resources to that term Hebrew poetry. But what we've done here is we've leveraged our robust search engine and our robust library platform, and we've included a way for you to be able to search on these terms and immediately get to other resources that have information on the term like Hebrew poetry. And you can see here there's a topic section Imagine going into a library and talking to the reference librarian and being able to say, I'd like to learn something about Hebrew poetry. And within a matter of 2 seconds, that reference librarian has scoured the entire library at the Bible college or at the seminary and has stacked up piles of books with stickies in every place where that term is used. And that reference librarian has piled them, categorized the results for you in ways that would be helpful to sift through the material. You can see that that's what we've done here with these search results. The topics section here includes all your Bible dictionaries that you might have. And notice that we didn't just stop at here's the dictionaries, we organized them for you, and you can see that it doesn't matter if it's poetry Hebrew that the article is mentioned under or listed under. It doesn't matter if it was Spanish. It doesn't matter whether the heading was in all caps, and it doesn't matter if the entry or the heading was different altogether, as what you have here, nature of Old Testament poetry or types of Old Testament poetry. All of these links are available here for you to reference. And of course, if you were to say, I'm a little bit beyond the dictionary level, I'd like to dig in to more specific resources that deal with Old Testament poetry, you can do that as well. Just scrolling down here to the library results, you can see that there are over 7,000 occurrences of the term Hebrew poetry throughout your entire library. And in just over 2 seconds, you've run this particular search. And you can see what types of resources are listed here. This overcomes one of the challenges that we know a number of students have when they're trying to learn about different concepts or authors, is that they may not know which resources to consult. Which resources should you use to find out more about a term like Hebrew poetry? Well, when you have this search conducted here, with this special search algorithm that we've developed called Ranked, we've done all the back-end work so that you can have the most results float to the top. And that's what we have here. You have an article out of this book, The Face of Old Testament Studies, a survey of contemporary approaches. And you can, of course, click on that link here, open up that resource. You can see every place where the term Hebrew poetry occurs, even within footnotes. Now, of course, you can look at this and say, well, this is talking about linguistic approaches. They mention a number of authors here and scholars perhaps in this field. This seems a little bit advanced. Maybe I'd like to look at the next resource. Common Characteristics of Hebrew Poetry is the article heading here within Old Testament poetry. I see that this book is by a couple of authors. I'm interested, so I'm just going to click there. And right away you can see how this is organized. I'm looking for some common characteristics. You can see that meter is a part of the features of Hebrew poetry. Here's an example from English. We also have parallelism is another feature of Hebrew poetry, as well as the different types of parallelism that are covered. Again, you didn't need to know that Encountering the Old Testament was a resource in your library. You didn't need to know who the authors were in order to find that. You didn't even need to know whether or not Hebrew poetry was a section in this book. What we've done here is, through our search platform, enabled you to get to these resources without even knowing that they're a part of your library. This is a great way for you to explore the different resources that are included. Perhaps you've purchased a base package like Platinum, or like even Portfolio, that includes thousands of resources, and you might feel as though, where would I ever get into these resources? How can I learn how to use them? Mobile Ed connects you to these resources in a way that's truly incredible and time-saving. Now, what's interesting about this too is just thinking about the lecture material and the way it works with the transcript. You can think about the lecture material and the transcript this way. Through this transcript that we've developed and through the connection to our search platform, we've enabled every word that the speaker says over the course of a lecture video. Every word that they speak is a portal, is a gateway into your entire theological library. Something like this has never been done before, and it's going to be of great value to anyone who wants to further and deepen their understanding of the Bible and of theology and of a range of other course categories that we're developing in mobile ed. Again, every speaker, every word that they speak is a possible search that you can conduct and is a possible avenue for you to learn more about the Bible, learn more about ministry, learn more about theology, all within just a few clicks. Now, of course, when you look at something like this, you might say, 7,000 results. I don't have time to sift through all the different results here and look through all the reference. I would just prefer if somebody directed me to those one or two resources or those one or two articles to read and review. Well, we've done that too with our mobile ed course transcripts. I'm just going to scroll down here to the very end of this transcript, and you can see there's an explore section here. Every single course and every single lecture segment includes an explore section to connect you to specific resources, and not just specific resources, but specific places within those resources. We've had our own team of academic editors go back through every transcript of every course and run some of the same searches that I just showed you over here to connect you to specific resources that we think will extend or develop or support the lecture material that's been presented by our mobile ed speakers. So what you need to do here is just simply look under the Explore section, and you can see that there's a link here going to the structure of the book of Jonah. You can click there and get immediately to that section of the book. Now again, this is out of the handbook on the book of Jonah. You may or may not have known about this resource, but our academic editors have identified this resource and this specific article within this resource as being very helpful and complementary to what Dr. Furtado talked about in his lecture. These links are hand-picked, curated content that our academic editors have decided would be very helpful for you to review. Now, of course, when you look at a page like this, you can see that there's some highlighting that we've included here too. We want to show you where to begin reading as well as where to stop reading. If you've ever been a part of a course in which a professor has collected a series of photocopied pages, compiled that into a binder or a spiral-bound book, and handed that out for you to read over the course of the course, well, that's what we've done here. It's the same type of idea of collecting course readings based off of the resources that we've collected in the Platinum base package. Now, that's at the required reading level. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that it's only resources available in Platinum. Oftentimes, these resources are also available in other base packages, like Bible Study, for example, or Scholar's Gold. We also have included, though, a range of other resources that you see under the See Also section that go beyond the base package. Perhaps you're very interested in some of these different topics that the professor has talked about, and you're interested to know more, and you're looking to expand your own library to include some more resources that would be helpful on these topics. We've included some links here to other resources as well. So that covers the video portion, the lecture video component to mobile ed. We've also covered this text transcript and all of the search capabilities that are included in here. One other thing that's amazing that we want to talk about too is the notes feature that's included. You'll see here that I have a specific section here that's been highlighted with this highlighting scheme here. You can see I've included a comment. You might find as you're going through a course that you want to take notes on the material that's being discussed and presented. Simply go to a section here, you can highlight anything that you want in the transcript, simply right-click, and then you can add a note to a file that you've created. So I have here a note that I've created, OT 101 Notes and Reflections, for example. I've created that note file through our documents toolbar here, just going to Notes. You can see that then there. I'll go ahead and click on this note file here, as I've already created one. And you can see I've just put in a few notes here. If you've taken classes at a Bible college or a seminary, or you're interested to further your own education, you know that taking notes is something that is of great value when you take a course. Now, if you think about it for a second, and you've taken courses in Bible college and seminary, where are your notes right now? Are they in a binder on a bookshelf? Are they in a folder on your computer? Where do those notes live, and how often do you reference them? You may have spent thousands of dollars on your theological education to prepare you for ministry, and those notes may be in a binder somewhere on a shelf, and maybe you haven't looked at them in years. One of the things that we wanted to do here was make it easier for you to keep your notes in front of you. When you take a course in mobile ed, when you work with these course materials, all of the notes that you create here within the text transcript are easily referenced through our menu. We keep those notes here in the Documents menu. We keep the notes here. You have basically a full word processor at your disposal where you can come in, type in, drop in links to different places, different sites, even within different resources in your Logos library. All of these notes and all of the content here that you capture is also searchable. You might have seen here within the search results, there's actually a section under My Content where you have clippings and note files. So what this is telling me here is that these different note files that I've created, for example, OT 101, has a hit for Hebrew poetry. There's a phrase this phrase is used, in other words, in these notes. Your notes are always searchable. They're always connectable within your Logos library. That's another facet of our platform that I want to highlight for you and present as having immediate value for you. Of course, I want to cover one last thing here. No mobile ed course platform developed by us would be complete without having tutorials about how to use Logos. I'm just going to scroll down here to the next video. You can see that this video looks very different from the other videos that we've shown here that have to do with Dr. Furtado, in this case, presenting lecture material content. What we have here is a screencast tutorial. A screencast is a tutorial video that is a recorded document, recorded media from a person's desktop. What you can see here is that we have a screencast tutorial of a particular feature within Logos. So what we've done here is Dr. Furtado presented, of course, on the structure of the book of Jonah. He talked about repeated vocabulary within the book of Jonah and how that repeated vocabulary helps us understand the message of the book. That's what he covered in his lecture. Now, what we've done is we've worked with a number of experts in Logos, people who know the software very well, but people who also understand biblical theology, biblical studies, biblical interpretation, and have extensive experience in ministry. These folks we've worked with, and they've gone back through all of the lecture material, all of the lecture transcripts, have reviewed them, and have reviewed them with the tools and resources that are available within Logos to connect you to these resources and tools so that you can develop your skills and a greater sense of confidence and competency with their software. So what we've done here is our screencaster, in this instance, is Mark Barnes. And Mark Barnes has reviewed the preceding lecture material, and he said, you know, the word list feature in Logos is a great tool to use to find repeated vocabulary. But he didn't just stop there with how to use and operate that tool. So he's not just going to show you, here's the word list feature, and here's how you use it and operate it. He's going to show you how to use the word list feature in the very context of Dr. Furtado's preceding lecture. So again, it's not just the word list feature, it's how to use the word list feature to find all the repeated words in the book of Jonah, which is exactly what Dr. Furtado talked about in his lecture material. In other words, we're showing how to do and how to perform the very types of things that the professors talked about in their lecture video. We're showing you their work. We know that this is a challenge oftentimes for many students who see the professors in class use their favorite tool, maybe talk about the number of occurrences in a book, maybe say a number of Hebrew terms or Greek terms that appear maybe in the Psalms or in Paul's letters. And a student might listen to that and say, well, that's great, you're a Hebrew scholar, you're a Greek scholar, but how could I arrive at those same conclusions? How could I use the tools to verify what you're saying and the conclusions you're drawing? Well, that's what we want to do here with these screencast tutorials. Every course that we develop in the Mobile Ed platform will be accompanied by a series of screencast tutorials to help you see how to use Logos to do theology, how to use Logos to do counseling, how to use Logos to do biblical interpretation and church history. All of these things will be of great value to our users. So what I want to do here is just play for you a couple of excerpts to show you what these tutorials look like. Go ahead and launch the video here, and I'll just go to full screen view here and play for you.
He appears to be concerned only about
an excerpt out of this.
which has automatically been named as an intersection of Jonah's grateful prayer with Jonah's angry prayer. Now
what I want to do here is bring you up to date about where we are in this particular screencast. What Mark Barnes has done in this instance is he's taken the word list document, which is what you see here. Both of these are word list documents. He's taken the text from the English Standard Version, the ESV over here, and you can see it over here, the ESV. He's taken the text from both of those translations, the specific sections that deal with Jonah's grateful prayer and Jonah's angry prayer. He's dropped the text of those prayers into this word list document, and what the word list document has done is it's sorted the different words that occur in that passage according to frequency. And you can see over here there's Jonah's grateful prayer. That was one word document or word list. And he's taken Jonah's angry prayer. That's another word list. And now he's combined them into one. And now he's going to draw upon the content from Dr. Furtado's preceding lecture to emphasize a few points here. And I'll just move it up to that spot where he begins to talk about this. And I'll take it from right here.
2. You can see that we now have a list of 13 words which appear in both prayers. And the 3 words Dr. Furtado mentioned are all here. That's the Hebrew word for life, for soul, and for loving kindness. Now, Dr. Furtado suggested that when we compare these 2 prayers together, we might come away thinking that the grateful prayer sounds very hypocritical and self-righteous, and I think he's right. But I also think that's even clearer when we have this word list in front of us. Have you noticed what word Jonah uses more than any other in these two prayers? The list is currently sorted by count, which means that right at the top is the word that Jonah uses more than any other. 24 times in these two prayers he says the word I. Dr. Futato pointed out that in the grateful prayer, Jonah is thankful for the one sinner who was saved. That's himself, of course. But that in the angry prayer, he can't bring himself to be thankful for the 120,000 repentant sinners whom God has saved. So when we compare these two lists, we find that the grateful prayer is just as much about Jonah as his angry prayer. And that suggests that Jonah is not just being self-righteous, but he's also being incredibly self-centered.
And I'll just go ahead and pause that right there. This video is closer to about 10 minutes in length. And what Mark Barnes does is he walks you through, first, how to use the word list. We do cover the operation of the tool. How do you open it? How do you access it? How do you work with it? What are the different ways in which your other resources in the library can work with this tool? But then we also cover the application of the tool. So you can see how to use it with a specific task in mind and with a specific context in mind. One of the things that we've really worked hard on is to make the connections between the lecture content and the tools in Logos. And you can hear from this screencast that we've developed, there's some very useful information that's drawn together that you can use in your next sermon, or in your next small group Bible study, or even for your own personal enrichment. This is a great insight that might even draw you to other possibilities. Maybe you want to look at Paul's prayers in his letters. Maybe you want to use this same tool to look at some of the Psalms of Thanksgiving in the Bible and compare and look at some of the repeated vocabulary. There's a number of opportunities here that these screencast tutorials create. There's a number of ways in which they can show you how to use the software for your own study. And even if you were to say, you know, I'm interested in learning more about the software, these tools are a great place, these tutorials are a great place for you to start, because you can see how to use the different resources that are available in Logos with a particular task in mind. So I'll just move out of full screen view here. And in conclusion, and to bring this to a close, really thankful for your time that you've spent with us today. Thank you for the opportunity to demonstrate the Mobile Ed platform. I again want to emphasize in closing that we've really designed the Mobile Ed courseware to be centered around what you get to keep. You get to keep the professor. You get to keep the lecture video. You not only remember what was said, but you can review how it was said. You get to keep an entire theological library for reference that has direct integration with the lecture content. You get to keep the screencast tutorials that show you how to use the software and how to use it with a specific task in mind. All of these things are a benefit, and even more so when you take the time to make your own notes within the course transcripts, reference those notes at a later time, search on all the course material that you have available so that you can get to the information you need when you need it.
Thanks, Johnny. This has been great. I learned a couple of things in there. I've been using Mobile Ed, actually going through Elise Fitzpatrick's course about identity in Christ. Her counseling course has been really, really helpful. I play a role at my church, a pastoral role at my church. Has been really helpful for me. But I learned a couple of things from your presentation that I didn't know I could do. That's been really great. As we've been going through here, if you would like to shop for Mobile Ed courses, you can do that right now. laros.com/learn-now. You can shop through Mobile Ed courses that we have available. There are also more courses coming, so you'll see some listed on Prepub. there as well. So you can shop a number of courses available right now that you could be taking this afternoon. And there are also some courses that are on the way that you can pre-order and save on. That's logos.com/learn-now. Johnny, as you were going through, we did get a couple of questions. One in particular, just kind of a functional question about when someone buys a mobile ed course. If I were to go buy a mobile ed course, do the videos download to my hard drive, or do they live on the Logos server? And if they download, how much hard drive space do I need roughly for each course?
That's a great question. And what I can do here is I can just go back and show you how this can work. The videos will stream from our servers by default. And you can see under here this resource panel menu. If you actually click on the resource panel menu of the video resource, you can see that you have a couple of options here. You can download the media, download all the media, or you can delete the downloaded media. Right now, I have downloaded the media to my machine so that I can watch it offline. If I don't have access to the internet, then I probably prefer to do that, to have the media downloaded. If I want to delete it later because I'll have a great internet connection and it's taking up space, I can of course delete the downloaded media. It doesn't delete the resource from your license or your machine, it just removes that media there that you've downloaded. Now, in terms of how much space it takes, our courses tend to be on average around 5 to 6 hours. We have other ones that are longer, that are about 10 hours. When you download the media, it's roughly 1 gig per hour. So a 5 to 6 hour course is going to be about 5 to 6 gigs in space.
Thank you. That's really helpful. One other question we have coming in here. You know, there are a number of courses to choose from right now. Do you, Johnny, have a recommendation about which course, if a user is brand new to mobile ed, which course should they start with?
A great place to start is with our Bible and Doctrine Foundations bundle. We've really crafted that bundle to be representative of what a person would cover, let's say, first year of seminary. We have several courses on Bible that survey the entire Bible. And then we have, of course, 4 theology courses. That bundle also includes our Certified Trainer Morris Proctor's course on Logos, where you cover all the features within Logos, know how to use it for your own personal study. That's a great bundle to start with. If you had to choose just one course to start with, I would say you really can't beat Douglas Moo's course on Romans. That would be a great place to start as well.
And you can find either of those, the Dr. Moo's course or the bundle, at logos.com/learn-now. You can buy either of those courses right now today. Thanks for being with us. It's been a lot of fun. If you have any other questions about Logos Mobile Education, you can send them to us, webinars@logos.com, and we can answer those by email. And again, you can watch the recording of this presentation later at logos.com/webinar-archive, and we'll send you an email with a link to the recording once it's ready. It takes a couple hours to get it processed and ready, but it will be right here, and we'll send you that link so that you can review it later. Thank you once again for being with us.